University rowing out of lane number 6. Coming up, the men's collegiate JV Grand Final.
Well, the University of Washington returning back for the first time here in 4 years. Qualified with a very strong time in yesterday's JV race, as did California. A very strong field here, particularly amongst the first 4 lanes. Always contenders, and Oregon State. University of California Davis A boat in here from their victory of last year. They're competing for the grand final JV for the Sharp Cabrillo Cup.
He walks away.
We're awaiting alignment and a start for the men's JV Grand Final.
Right out there in the point. Best venue of the whole day. All the beer you can drink. Do this girl serving the way you want. We just get one back.
Pull it back. Three back. Three back. Just there. Pull it back. 3. A little bit more. 3. Back, back, back. There you go. Good. One back, just a hair. Back, back. 1. 1 back. 1 back. Yes. Hold.
My reverse is not being very well.
And they're away in the men's collegiate JV Grand Final. Everyone's come off the line powerfully and smoothly. The conditions are very good. The wind had dropped slightly for the beginning of this race, so everyone had great conditions for the start. And it looks as though it's the Cal boat and the Washington boat that have really gone off strong. As they come through the first 100 meters, it would be difficult to say. Cal and Washington, stroke for stroke, bow ball for bow ball, closely followed by Harvard. And then on the far outside, it's the Oregon State University boat. At this point, the crews from Stanford and the only club crew in the event, the University of California Davis, make up the back part of the field, but everyone's overlapping. As we go into the second half of the first 500, it's stroke for stroke between California and Washington. And the Harvard crew are moving back on those 2 boats to join them in the lead. It's very difficult to say. If anyone has a slight advantage, it would have to be the Washington crew in lane 1. But this is close, very close. As we come up to the 500-meter mark, I would say that the crew from Washington have a lead of maybe 1 seat over Cal, who have half a seat over Harvard, and then it's back to the crew in lane 4 from Stanford, who are bow ball to bow ball with Oregon State on the far side, and the UC Davis crew are lengths back in last place.
Rechecking our lane assignments for the men's collegiate JV Grand Final. In lane number 1, the University of Washington currently our leader, but not by much, over lane 2, California. And they have a very, very slight lead over Harvard in lane 3. In lane 4, it is Stanford. The University of California Davis will be coming out of lane 5. And Oregon State University is pulling out of lane 6. Our call at 500 meters was Washington, Cal, Harvard, Stanford, Oregon State, and then comes Cal Davis.
Shot there of the California Golden Bear crew rowing out of lane 2. And Harvard just coming into view in the background. All 3 boats in the lead, very tightly contested, just about 6 or 8 seats between first, second, and third spot. They're starting to separate themselves from the rest of the field, followed by Stanford and then Oregon State and Davis. pass through 1,000 meters. Harvard clearly in the lead. Starting to move out on the first and second spots. First lanes 1 and 2. It's Harvard by 3/4 of a boat length.
With about 7:50 to go, we are looking at Harvard on the lead. They had gotten off to a third-place start, but they certainly decided to kick it in gear just before they got to the 1,000-meter mark, and has begun to put on some open water here. It is Harvard in lane number 3, currently on our lead. The University of California is shore side of them and holding down second spot. They're being challenged by Washington along the shoreline. Then looking outside to Stanford, farther outside to Oregon State and the University of California Davis. Harvard put on a great move just before they reached the 1,000-meter mark, and it's paying off for them right now.
Harvard looking very determined. They're all sitting upright. Perfect timing. Stroke for stroke, they're moving out on each stroke. We're inside 500 meters to go. Harvard continuing their pace. They're burning through the rest of the field. They've opened up open water over California. California closely pursued by Washington. On the outside, Oregon State battling it out with Stanford and trailing Davis.
This is Harvard in the middle of our field, but on the lead along the shoreline. Washington has picked it up, and they're challenging Cal. Washington on the shoreline. They've got some distance to make up for Harvard. To Harvard, but it is Washington turning on the fire. Washington is now in second spot with California in third, all the way outside to Oregon State, and then Stanford and Davis. This is Harvard on the lead. It is Washington into second spot, and they're closing on Harvard. Washington on the shoreline. Watch them come. Harvard, the leader since about 1,000 meters to go, is trying to hang on, and Cal is dropping back a bit. In the shoreline area, it is the University of Washington. They are tracking Harvard and watching closely at the finish line. Harvard does hold on to win it. Unofficially, Washington looks like the second place club, and California finishes in third. And a great run there by Washington.
Harvard is our winner in the JV Grand Final. Moved out to over a length with 500 meters to go, and then Washington really put the pedal down. The stroke rate got up in the 39-40 range. I got them in the last 20 strokes. They were moving very quickly up on them, but unfortunately they couldn't spot that full length distance they had to make up in 500 meters. California hanging on for third spot, followed by unofficially Oregon State, then Stanford and Davis.
An impressive run by Washington trying to catch Harvard, and if you'd like to have a copy of that outstanding race and the excitement that goes with the San Diego Crew Classic, check into the merchandising booth in about an hour. We will have a DVD available, and you can relive the excitement of that particular race with the San Diego Crew Classic. Coming up next, the Women's Collegiate Varsity Cal Cup Grand Final, and in lane number 1, it'll be San Diego State University. The University of California Davis will be pulling out of lane 2.